Welcome to Dorking Out. My name is Sonia Mansfield, and joining me is my podcasting sister from another mister and the co-host of Dorking Out, Margo D. Hello, my friend.
Then you find yourself somewhere in between. That is the Stephen Bishop song, Somewhere in Between, from the movie The China Syndrome.
It's the love theme from China Syndrome.
It's the only music in the movie.
I was just gonna say that it's the only music in the movie, and it's such a silly song for such a serious movie.
Yes,
I like your version better. Just FYI. We are dorking out about 1979's The China Syndrome, and that might seem like a very strange choice from us, but I think it's really interesting. I know that Margo recently got the Criterion channel, and I've had it for a little while, and so we've both been kind of dorking out about what they're curating on that channel, and they've got a whole bunch of Jane Fonda movies on there right now, and Margo just kind of went down a rabbit hole and started watching all these Jane Fonda movies, and we decided to talk about The China Syndrome. Does that sound about right?
Yes, it's because I super love it, but you've never seen it before.
I had never seen it. That is correct.
So I was like, oh, that's a good one to do then.
Yeah, I think so. I also watched Barbarella, which I had never seen. And that's a movie that exists.
Yeah, I saw The Morning After for the first time since 1986, and wow, it stinks.
Yeah, it's got at least it's got Jane Fonda and it's got Jeff Bridges, so it's got that going for it. Barbarella's fucking weird. Yeah. Super weird movie. I mean, I guess I wasn't bored. I think it looks really cool. It's very strange. I was very entertained. I'm making it sound like I don't like it. I actually kind of liked it, but it's something.
Mm-hmm. That was sex symbol Jane. And then she's had various manifestations in her career, and so like this movie was with her being more serious.
Yes, definitely. And then the following year she got back to being silly again and did 9 to 5, which we did an episode on as well. And speaking of episodes we've done, this movie is directed by James Bridges, who also directed Perfect, which we did an episode on.
Oh my god,
isn't that hilarious?
Oh my god, I forgot about that movie. It's shitty.
Oh my god, it's so shitty, but it was such a fun episode. Please go back and listen to Perfect. This is weird. So he didn't direct like a ton of movies, but he did The Paper Chase, which people super love. I've never seen it. I know what it is, but I haven't seen it. He also did Perfect, and he did Urban Cowboy.
That's why I know his name, right? Because we covered that for Book versus Movie. It was based on a magazine article. Yeah.
I think Perfect might have been too. We will definitely get to Urban Cowboy someday because I think there's a lot to talk about there. Although you watched it most recently, do you think there's a lot to talk about there?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, it was from 40 years ago, and it was the whole culture that existed at the time that people would find very strange now. But like, country music was really hip for the time. Like that was the popular music.
Yeah.
It had a really weird kind of like, Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton and the Oak Ridge Boys. And there were all these people, these country stars that started getting really famous. And then that went down. It was just popular music for the time. But anyway, we're talking about the China Syndrome.
We are talking about the China Syndrome, which stars Jane Fonda, Jack Lemmon, Michael Douglas, Wilford Brimley.
Yep. A young chap.
Looking way younger, which totally blew my mind because I was like, wasn't he like born old? He's like always old, right? But he actually looks considerably younger. Did you see? I assume you did not see China Syndrome in the theater.
No.
No, your parents weren't like, "Come on, kids, let's go see the China Syndrome."
No, we would see the Star Wars movie, and we would see like popular movies. They took me to see Poltergeist when I was really young, and they took me to see Empire Strikes Back and stuff like that. But no, they knew better than to take us to see something like this. We'd be bored silly. We were kids.
Yeah, this wouldn't have stopped my mom. Like she would have totally taken me to see the China Syndrome. In fact, I should have texted her before we started recording, being like, "How come you didn't take me to see the China Syndrome, Mom? What's up with that?" If you haven't seen it, do you want to talk about what it's about for people?
Well, so Jane Fonda plays a TV reporter. She took her long, beautiful hair and dyed it red. She
Hmm.
looks great in the
She
movie.
does.
And she's a reporter in LA. Her name's Kimberly Wells, and she does, like if you ever seen Anchorman, there was this time in the 70s and 80s where news anchors and like the 6 o'clock news was a mixture of really serious news and total goofiness.
Yes.
And she would be one of the ones that would do the goofy stories, like, the pet fashion shows, that kind of thing.
She's doing
And
her first, the one we see is her doing like singing telegrams are the new craze.
right. And the belly gram with the belly dancer. And of course the
Hmm.
guys in the booth, saying shit as they're doing that. And I used to work at the Queen Latifah show, the talk show. My favorite thing was to be in the booth. You have to be in the booth. That's where all the shit happens. And everybody lets it loose there. It's so much fun. But anyway, so she's a reporter and she's going out to a nuclear power plant. And there's a PR guy showing her, and Michael Douglas is her photographer. He's like a freelance photographer. And then Hector, who
Yeah,
plays Hector?
it is.
Daniel Valdez.
Yes.
Hector is their producer guy, like carries the equipment. And so it's a trio, and they're going to this nuclear power plant. And he's a basic PR guy. And the guy that is a character actor,
Hmm.
he's been in a million things in the 70s and 80s. Like he
I
was in everything.
I know what I recognized him from immediately, and I'm wondering if it's the same thing you recognize him from immediately.
Poltergeist?
Uh,
I don't think he was in
the
that.
PR guy.
Yeah.
I recognize. Isn't he the dad in Teen Wolf?
You're right.
That's what I.
He's a wolf too.
Yeah, that's
Spoiler.
right. Spoilers. He's a wolf too.
Spoiler. Oh, that's a better reference. Okay. So he's the PR guy and he's showing them around and they're basically saying like nuclear energy's awesome. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with it. It's super safe. And so they go and they go to the control room. Jack Lemmon's in the control room, so is Wilford Brimley. And they're filming inside the control room and then some shit happens.
Yes.
And it's all pandemonium. Everyone looks upset. And the PR guy is like, don't worry about it, folks, just a little whatever. And Michael Douglas surreptitiously films it with this like gigantic camera that's like the size of my couch. Like that's how like the equipment was. He's not very good PR guy because he couldn't tell like he was doing that. But anyway, Michael Douglas films it. And then they get the hell out of there and they go on the air and they show it to their news people. And they're like, something crazy happened today. And then, of course, the PR guy shows up at the news station, says you can't use that. And basically, they put the film away. And so Jane Fonda's upset because she wants to do hard news. She keeps saying she wants to do that. And everybody treats her like she's a bimbo.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael Douglas is an asshole to her and calls her an asshole, like leaves her a voicemail. So Michael Douglas steals the film.
Yes.
And then Jane Fonda, they basically say to her, they don't even say, like, we're not going to call the cops, find him and get that film back or we're going to fire you. So she goes out looking for him. And Hector, so they get the film and there's also this whole subplot about people being afraid of the nuclear power plant and saying, how safe is it? And they want more assurance. So they're having these community gatherings.
Yeah, which was totally a thing back in the day. So
Yes.
for our younger listeners, in the late 70s, early 80s, there was a lot of these types of movies because everybody was really afraid about this sort of thing. So I'm sure you know the TV movie The Day After.
Of course.
That movie fucked people up.
Yeah.
Like my sister had nightmares for weeks. This, war games, these were things that we were all super worried about.
Do you remember the No Nukes concert?
No.
There was a concert in New York City. Well, it was like 77, 78, but it was a No Nukes concert. It was basically a bunch of rock artists, dope smoking musicians saying, we can't use nuclear power. And they had Springsteen there and Carly and her husband, Carly Simon and James Taylor saying Mockingbird and shit. But anyway, like I had a teacher and he would wear his No Nukes. He had a couple of No Nuke shirts. He would wear it under his shirt to be like, yeah, I'm the cool teacher.
Yeah,
I went to
cool
the No
teacher.
Nukes concert. Yes. Anyway, so people would go to these things and and of course hippie, people are like, oh, you're just dumb, bored housewives and environmentalists. We don't take you seriously. Nothing's changed, you guys. But so Michael Douglas shows the film to some experts and they're like, holy shit, what happened is that the pipes are bursting. And if it overflows, it fills with water and then it'll crash through. And basically, it goes through the earth. And this heat will propel through the earth, technically going to the other side of the planet. So they call it
Yeah.
the China Sun really good. But actually, what happens is once you hit the Earth's center, it'll just pop out in a huge blast. And they say it would be a blast about the size of Pennsylvania.
Hmm.
And then they say the death, it depends on how the wind's blowing that day. But he says, but it's really the cancer
Yeah.
that's going to kill people.
And they do a really good job, by the way, of
Really good
of
job.
explaining what this is, because they're taking a tour of the plant, and there is kind of this like Cliff Notes, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, version of how it all works, and then they explain later like what went wrong, and they do a really good job of explaining it, because it could be really confusing.
Yeah.
But and you just did a really good job too.
I've seen this movie a bunch of times, so I was into it, and I remember. So the move. So anyway, let's continue with the plot. So Jane Fonda is on board. She's like, "Holy shit, dudes, we got to get in. We got to take care of this." And so Michael Douglas gives Hector the film and says, "Hector, drive through the mountains where there's no guardrails and have this important film sitting next to you, and just meet us at this place."
What could
Poor
go wrong?
Hector. What could possibly go wrong? Poor Hector gets his car rammed.
Yes.
Oh, and by the way, so in the meantime, Wilford Brimley and then I forgot to talk about Jack Lemmon, who's wonderful
I love
in
Jack
this movie.
Lemmon.
Oh, Jack Goodell, he's amazing.
Is there nothing Jack Lemmon can't do? Like, or couldn't do, I should say.
Yeah, I was
like,
gonna say that right now he can't do much.
he can't do much of anything, and that is wrong. But back in the day, Jack Lemmon, I mean, he's so funny in things, and then he could be so serious in others and heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And just he's the best.
He does angry very well.
He does. He's so good
does
in
angry.
this.
So between him and Wilford Brimley, so they're men in their 40s, early 50s, sort of ish. And for Jack Lemmon, his character, it's like, well, he's in charge of everything, and so he's wondering what went wrong. He says because they have to double check all the pipes and everything like that. And Wilford Brimley's like, look, I don't even went to college. He's like, I've been here for 25 years. I don't know. I don't want to cause problems. And you can see with both of them what the point is. He's going to say like, they're going to treat me like I'm a yokel and it was my fault if you keep looking in, and it's not my fault. But he also probably doesn't really understand how things work.
Right.
So Jack Lemmon starts going through all of the slides for all the different tubes. The way I'm explaining it isn't great, but basically he finds out that what they did is they just took one picture for one. It's not a tube. What is it? What am I thinking of? What's the word I'm thinking of? It's like these cylinders.
Yeah, like
these,
a silo, or
it's like a silo.
Yeah.
And there's several of them. And what he realizes is that they're just using the same picture for all the different silos. They're not exactly taking pictures of each and every one. So there was a crack in one, and a crack in one fucks everything up.
Mm-hmm.
And so he says, well, we got to now do something about this. And they say to him, well, the people that own the plant are like, if we were to do that, it's going to cost $500,000 a day, which is 1979 money. That's a shitload of money. And he finds out from his bosses, they're getting pressure from their bosses saying, that's too expensive. Just, put a Band-Aid on it. Put a Band-Aid on it, basically. Whatever's wrong, it's like they look at the fucking pipes in my building. They just fix it somewhat, and then 6 months later you have a problem again. But this is a problem in that it's going to explode. It's going to kill people. And it's not like so it's serious. So Jane Fonda, and there's a great scene at a bar, by the way, where Jane Fonda meets him.
I love that scene.
And he kind of hits on her and then takes it well when she turns him down, but they do it very nicely. But she's getting sort of the idea of like, he's a good guy. He's a decent guy. And this job is his whole life. He even says so at one point, this job is everything for me. So Jack Lemmon, they're going to get the film to show the civics group, like, hey, look, we got to shut this plant down. We have evidence of why it's a danger. You need to see it. Poor Hector, got run over. He's okay, though, apparently. They can all tell he's fine. If Hector, great, cover his face.
He's fine. That's fine.
Like,
maybe he'll never walk again. It's fine.
That's what I'm thinking, too. Like, holy shit, poor Hector.
I know.
So,
he didn't deserve that.
He did not deserve that. Jack Lemmon decides that he's going to give evidence because his conscience can't deal with it. But there's guys at the nuclear plant that once they have to take care of Hector, they're going to take care of him. And so he's driving along. And you look at it wistfully now if you're from California, like these freeways are empty.
Seriously, that is not a thing. That is not a thing.
So not a like at 3:34 in the afternoon. He's just driving.
Oh my gosh, It would be the most boring movie. It's like he just backs out of his driveway.
Stuck in traffic.
Yeah, right in traffic and just sits there for 2 hours.
3 hours. Yeah, it's just. But anyway, it includes a great Camaro. That was my first car. Was a bitchin'
Mine
Camaro.
too.
Oh, they're the best.
I had a 1978 Camaro.
I had a 1980.
It was really, really fast.
I loved it. It had a lot of power.
I got so many speeding tickets in that car.
So did I.
So many. Anyway,
so Jack Lemmon was going to go to the meeting, but he can't. So instead, because he's being chased around, I was like, fuck, they're trying to kill me. So instead, he goes back to the power plant. And he gets in and he's at his desk and they're basically saying, dude, you're fired. You got to go. Yeah. And there's this guy that's the security guy who's armed and has his back to everybody because he reads the paper. And Jack Lemmon very quickly steals his gun from him.
It's so like, hey, can I borrow your gun for a minute?
Yeah, it's like seriously
so easy to take the gun from this dude. Like,
but I'll say this. Yeah. But I'll say this about the movie. It doesn't have a soundtrack.
Yes.
It's played like an independent film or like a 70s film noir thing. So they play it straight. So it actually is shocking. Like when he does that, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, no, you don't expect, because he's not that kind of character. He's not an action movie star. He's not John McClane. You know, he's Jack Lemmon. He's very mild-mannered. He's just trying to do the right thing. And I want to mention like that scene at the bar.
Yes,
One of the things I love so much about that scene at the bar is as they're kind of feeling each other out. Like they're actually both in the same situation in that they want to do the right thing, but they don't want to jeopardize their jobs. And they're having this conversation, and I think they're both figuring it out as it goes along that they're going to jeopardize their jobs to do the right thing. And I like it so much because they never say that. They don't say, well, I don't want to jeopardize my job and neither do you. Like, it's not a spelled out thing, but that's what they're talking about. And I like it so much. And you can tell, like, he really likes her and she likes him. She thinks he's a good person. And I really like that scene a lot.
She's an independent person. She's her own. And, everybody, she's good looking and everybody notices that about her, but she's also smart and she's very cunning and she's quick and she deals with people really well. And so he holds basically the group hostage there and says, I will talk to the media. I will only talk to Kimberly Wells. And you got to bring her in right now or I'm going to blow Wilford Brimley up or something. And
not Wilford Brimley. You'll get oatmeal everywhere.
5 years later, he's in Cocoon. It's just so crazy. He aged like 20 years in like 5 years. Yeah, it's crazy. Weird. So anyway, so Kimberly comes in. Michael Douglas is with her. Hector, he's going to be okay, we hope. And Jack Lemmon is she has a live remote feed to him. And it becomes a huge news story now because, of course it would. So they have the exclusive. It's a big deal that Kimberly's there and she interviews him. Spoilers, by the way, we do spoil the film. Yes. But she's trying to get the story from him and he's trying to tell the story. And he comes across as nervous and he's breathing rapidly. He's speaking rapidly. She's trying to hold him and rein him in so he can sound cogent and sounds like, he doesn't sound like a crazy person.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, so the police come in, the security comes in, he runs away. They shoot him in the back because they're fucking cowards. Mm-hmm. He's dead.
So sad.
Which is so sad. And Kimberly now has to go out, and the PR guy is like, well, we had a, disgruntled worker.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, he was waving his gun everywhere, and unfortunately we had to, put him out of his misery and blah blah blah. And she gets the microphone, and she goes up, and she gets Wilford Brimley
Yeah.
and says, "Is that what you think has happened? Do you think that's what happened? Do you think Jack was crazy? Do you think he was?" And Wilford Brimley, and it takes a lot of guts to do it because he's going to lose his job for saying it. But he goes, "No, he was the sanest man I ever knew, and he was just trying to save lives."
Yeah, he
And
basically finally tells the truth.
yes, yeah, finally, his dead friend died.
Yeah.
He just and so that's it. That's the end of the movie. And so they basically, so Kimberly Wells are like, yeah, she was good. Yeah, she was really good. And then it ends sort of like Network in that it's TV screens
Mm-hmm.
and it's all for microwaves.
Yeah.
And
it's
what'd you think?
I thought it was really, really good. I was
Yeah.
super into it. I think I was surprised by how much I liked watching it, because it is
Yeah.
like something really serious, but everyone's really, really good in it. Like, I mean, Jack
Mm-hmm.
Lemmon is always like, mwah, always. And like, she's really great. I really like Michael Douglas. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he's so interesting, because we just did Romancing the Stone a couple weeks ago. And that's like, I didn't realize it at the time, but this was like that was when he finally became like a leading man, was Romancing
Mm-hmm.
the Stone. And he did a lot of parts like this, but he also was like producing, like he produced this movie, and he
Mm-hmm.
produced One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And I think like he has his finger on the pulse of what people are talking about, or at least he used to, with
Mm-hmm.
like this and Cuckoo's Nest. And like, I don't know, he's so good in this because he's so relaxed. Like, you totally buy him as like this kind of hippie burnout, and it's like, you're a sellout, man. Like, that sort of thing. Like,
Yeah.
he's actually really good at it. Like, and for people who only know him as like Gordon Gekko or something, like, this part would be a really big deal. Like, when they see it, they'll be blown away. And just, I think this movie holds up, and I think what is happening in that movie still happens now. And look what's going on with Flint, and they're in Flint, Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
and their water. Like, this is this is the same kind of shit. It's all about money. It's not about people's health or safety, and it's fucked up. And it still applies now. And I just thought it was really well done, and I love that there is no music in it, because it makes it feel so documentary like.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good. I was glad that you picked it so that I finally had an excuse to see it.
Oh, I'm glad you liked it. Yeah, I've seen it a bunch of times. And when the movie came out, it was 1979. My family lived in Pennsylvania, Malvern, in case you're wondering. And so then there was a 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant.
Mm-hmm.
And this almost happened at that power plant. It didn't happen, but it almost happened. That was 2 weeks after this movie came out.
Isn't that crazy?
Which is crazy. So when movies are released, there's long lead and short lead press. So for magazines or long lead press, so because I used to do movie PR, you would have magazine people come and see your movie 3 to 6 months out.
Mm-hmm.
So the long lead magazines, they thought it was a good movie. They're like, but this is preposterous. This could never happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's also, once again, you're saying like big business is bad, hippies good, that kind of thing. And then 3 Mile happens 2 weeks after this movie comes out, and then all of a sudden it became a big deal, and everybody saw the movie.
Yes.
And people realized like this shit's real.
Michael Douglas obviously made 3 Mile Island happen
Yes,
to promote
yes.
this movie. It's like a really bad PR stunt.
It's a great PR stunt. I mean, it's terrible for the people, but it got the movie talked about.
Yeah.
And that finally, then people were like, all right, is this safe? Like, how are we getting rid of this, the waste here and stuff like that? And it's just a really well done movie. It's just a good thriller.
It is. It's a very good thriller. And you really like her, and you really like Jack Lemmon, and you think Michael Douglas is all right, but like, you care about them. You don't want anything bad to happen to them. You feel bad for Hector. Poor Hector.
Poor Hector.
You know,
As soon
and
as he
there's
goes by,
and then there's just
there's
like
no guardrail.
no, I know,
It's just
so
I'm like, oh no, that's like Route 17. Like going through Santa Cruz Mountains,
yes.
that terrifying thing. Like, oh no, dude, don't do this. Okay, anyway, go ahead.
No, I
I
was just gonna
interrupted you.
say then there's just weird stuff in the movie too. So there's the like super casual sexism that she's putting up with at her job, which
Mm-hmm.
by the way is still totally a thing.
Yep.
Like, I mean, I think at one point someone actually tells her, like, don't worry your pretty head about it. Like,
No, and Michael Douglas slaps her on the ass at one
yeah, he
point.
slaps
Just
her on the ass.
jovialist.
But
Yeah.
then there's like another thing where like she goes home and she has a pet tortoise. Like, what the
I
fuck?
love the pet.
What?
But and then and it's very weird because I don't know if you noticed it. I never noticed this before until I saw this again. She has like 3 pictures of Marilyn Monroe in her apartment. There's 3 of them I saw.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a mirror catching one of them, but I'm like, why would she want Marilyn Monroe of all things?
It's just funny.
And
Like, she's walking around with this tortoise and she's like
yes,
talking to it. And then like she lays on her bed and she puts the tortoise on the bed and she's like feeding the tortoise while she's listening to her messages from people being all shitty. And it's just such a weird thing where I was like, what the fuck?
yeah, she's quirky. I mean, she's definitely she's different. She's quirky. I love the red hair.
Mm-hmm. And she looks
I
beautiful.
thought that looked. Oh, she looks great.
Yeah.
And the smoking, like she's always stealing other people's cigarettes. Like I don't
Mhm.
smoke, and then she just right.
Yeah, she can't help herself.
That's why she's so thin.
True.
It's the lettuce and the cigarettes. That's probably what she lives on.
throw
But
a
yeah,
throw a Pepsi Light in there, and that's like peak 70s. Tab, exactly.
Diet Fresca. Yeah. So she's. Ooh, I want one of those right now. Anyway, so
Mhm.
she's an independent person, and she's just got this shot in LA, and she wants to do the hard news. And that story's been told, a bunch of different times. But this is like the stakes are so high.
Yes.
And it also the movie allows their audience to learn, gives the audience the information and trust that they'll get it and understand
Yeah,
it. And like you said,
it's not dumbing
it's
down
really well
stuff.
right. And you get the stakes and what's really going on here. And yeah, it's a lot of money to fix things, but the lawsuits that are going to happen if you don't,
Yeah.
and the lives lost,
It's
really well done.
It is, absolutely. So like you mentioned at the top of the show, the only music in the movie is the Somewhere in Between by Stephen Bishop. So I read that the original song was supposed to be What a Fool Believes by the Doobie Brothers.
And I'm a huge Doobie Brothers fan.
I'm like,
but that,
I love that song.
That's a great song.
Yeah.
And that would have been good too.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good song, but Somewhere in Between, it's not a good song.
No, I was just yes. It's a shame because there's a lot of good music, and we'll talk about that in a minute. There's a lot of great music in 1979, and Stephen Bishop's a good songwriter too. It's just that's not his.
Did he
best
do
work.
the one from Tootsie?
He did.
Okay, that's where I read the something's telling me it might be you.
And on, they just keep on sighing.
Oh my gosh.
I love that song.
I love that song too. I didn't know that was him.
He wrote a lot of great ballads.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't want to make fun of Stephen Bishop then because those songs those songs are great.
Yeah.
And this was Jane Fonda had won an Oscar for Clute by this point, which I still haven't seen, and it's on Criterion, so I'm going to watch it. It's on my list. But she was nominated for this movie, and so is Jack Lemmon, but they both lost. He lost to Dustin Hoffman for Kramer versus Kramer, which I haven't seen since I was a kid. And then
it's a bummer.
Yeah, and she lost to Sally Field for Norma Ray, which
you got that understand.
Yeah, and that's funny because that's kind of another one of these movies where it's I don't know, like about like businesses, about people trying to force businesses to do the right thing.
Right.
There's a lot of that going on. I don't know if I could sit through Kramer versus Kramer now.
No, it's a huge bummer.
It's the biggest fucking bummer.
Yeah.
Such a bummer.
Yeah. Paul. What am I thinking of? Paul, not Newman. Paul. Dustin. Sorry, Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah,
He's a creep.
he is a creep, huh?
Yeah.
What a disappointment that turned out to be.
Mm-hmm.
We should put. He's probably on our list.
We should do Tootsie. Yeah.
Yeah, Tootsie should be on our dorking out list, and Dustin Hoffman should be on our creep list.
Yes. Yes. Noted.
You know what though? Tootsie's a funny movie to talk about because he's kind of a creep in that movie.
He is, and it's weird, like how you feel about it at the time, and then his whole thing later on. His big lesson
Yeah.
was that if you're not a pretty, if women that aren't pretty have a hard time. Like that's what he got from it.
What I remember about that movie, the part that I don't think has aged well was I think he's really shitty to Terry Garr in that movie.
Oh, he gaslights her.
Yeah.
Full on. The whole, and it's Terry Garr, who's more beautiful and funny. She's way better than Jessica Lange, who's a pain in the ass. She's a drip. Well, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about it.
She's a total trip. Oh my God. All right. We're going to, Tootsie's moving up the list. It's moving up because there's so much to talk about there. Let's see what else. I'm going through our notes. We talked about about the PR stunt that happened afterwards. It was nominated for 4 Oscars: Best Actor, Best Actress, Original Screenplay, and Production Design. It didn't win any of that stuff. Richard Dreyfuss was originally going to play the Michael Douglas part, which sure
I could see. Yeah.
I'm like, that's fine. And actually, that was kind of it for my notes. I did really, really like it. It's like a tight, like good 70s paranoia thriller.
There's not a wasted scene in there.
Except for maybe the tortoise.
I kind of liked it. I did. You wanted to see what she's like at home.
That's true. And I think actually, I'm joking. It's actually like a good scene because we see what Jack Lemmon's home is like too.
Right.
And it's this totally like barren apartment that's like plain, nothing about it because work is his life.
And the same for her. And she has like her mom calling her, being, doing what moms do.
Yeah.
Guilting you about calling dad. And then the pilot that calls her, and she's got the look on her face like, oh boy, no.
Ugh.
And then Michael Douglas just says, you know what, you're a real asshole. And hangs up.
I'm like, are they friends or are they like exes?
No, I think they're friends.
Okay.
I think they're friends. And I think, quite frankly, like she's if she's gonna get out of a relationship, she wants somebody higher status that's got their shit together.
Yeah.
She rescues enough people on her own. Like she'd want to be with somebody who has his shit together.
Yeah.
Michael Douglas is just gonna get high and get another job,
Yeah. He would be like her fuck buddy, but
that's a better way to put it. Yes.
I'm so gross.
No, you're plain spoken. I like that.
Do you want to hear about the top 10 movies of 1979?
Fucking A.
Okay. I love that we've never done a 79 movie, so I can and I love that we're doing some older movies. This is fun. So, number 10 is The Muppet Movie.
Which, do you know the Muppets are coming to Disney Plus?
Is it the original
Muppet Show?
Oh my God. The original Muppet Show, so funny.
So great. It's coming in mid-February.
So Calvin was really into the Muppet Movie for a little while, and that shit is hilarious. It's hilarious. It's really funny. And Steve Martin in it in particular. He has like kind of a smallish scene where like he's the waiter, and just the way he talks to like Kermit and Miss Piggy makes me laugh stupid hard every time. It's so funny. So number 9 is Moonraker.
Moonraker.
It's not.
Wait, what was the?
It is not good. That's the one where they go to space. James Bond goes to space.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Old man Roger Moore is number 8. Oh, speaking of Steve Martin, The Jerk.
I used to think that movie was hilarious. I don't know if it holds up.
I have not seen it in a long time, but I still sing all the time. I'm picking out a thermos for you. I sing it all the time to my husband, and I don't think he thinks it's as funny as I do. Number 7 is 10.
Oh, Blake Edwards.
That one is another
Bo
one.
Derek.
Dudley, yeah,
Oy, oy,
Dudley
oy.
Moore. Remember when Hollywood was like, Dudley Moore's a sex symbol? LOL. It's like not a thing. He is not a sex symbol. I don't think 10 will hold up very well.
Mm-mm.
That is my prediction. Number 6 is Alien.
Oh, great movie.
Alien's awesome. Number 5, Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Is that the first one?
Yes, it is.
It's okay.
It's boring.
Yeah.
It's so there's so much like Enterprise porn. It's like, look at the Enterprise. Isn't it amazing? It's like 30 extra minutes of just like slow motion. Like, look at the ship. It's like, the ship's so great. It's boring. It's boring. Just go right to Wrath of Khan if you're going to watch
Right, I was
Star
just
Trek.
going to say.
It's way better. Number 4, Apocalypse Now.
Good movie.
Yeah. Number 3, Rocky 2.
Good movie.
Also good. Number 2, Amityville Horror.
Not a good movie, but watchable.
I don't know if I've ever seen the whole thing.
I was friends with someone whose uncle bought that house, the actual house, because it was so cheap. And then he found out that it was a tourist attraction.
Oh, no.
And people from all over the world would drive by the house slowly and pose for pictures and ring their doorbell and ask to go and walk around the house. And he unloaded it at a loss, like a couple of years later.
I don't think I would like that. I lived in an apartment building in San Francisco. Apparently, in that apartment building, Janis Joplin lived there at one point.
Oh, wow.
And so there were all these like rock tours or something. So sometimes like people would be like, because I lived right on the corner of Haight and Ashbury, and people would do these walking tours. And my studio apartment was on the ground floor. So
no, thank you.
Yeah, so these groups would like gather like right in front of my apartment and like give their tour. And I'm like, oh, God, here we go again. Like it's
wow.
Like, there was also a haunted Haight tour, where people would they would take walking tours and talk about like ghosts. And I was like,
and they're on acid. Come on.
Janis Joplin didn't die in this apartment. Why are you here? It was like a whole thing. Anyway, I don't want people loitering in front of my place.
The ground floor is where you got me. That's the worst.
I hated it. Like,
yeah,
the apartment was fine. It was fine. It was a studio apartment. It was fine, but it was on the ground level, and it was like not my fave. So I had to keep the shades pulled like all the time. And anyway, that's enough about my apartment.
Yeah,
problems.
I can hear about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then number 1 for 79 was Kramer versus Kramer.
Are you shitting me?
Which seems so fucking weird to me. Hey, this drama about divorce was the number 1 movie of 1979.
So Dustin Hoffman is divorcing Meryl Streep.
Yes.
Meryl Streep is leaving him.
Yes.
And her son.
Yes.
And it's all about how he hates being a dad, and then all of a sudden he's really good at it. And then they go to court to fight over it.
Yeah.
And we're all supposed to hate Meryl Streep.
Yeah, I haven't seen it since I was probably too young to see it.
It's a bummer.
It's a fucking bummer movie. I mean, obviously it was clicking for a lot of people because,
yeah,
I don't know, maybe because I guess divorce was becoming more of a thing back then, and I don't know. It just seems weird to me that there's this movie that's like it's like an adult drama that would be like the number 1 movie in the country. Seems weird to me. That's all. It's not a comic book movie. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
But it's more than that. It's like you said, it's a serious drama, and it's not fun. It's just yeah. Wow. Okay, you're blowing my mind. Okay, so do you want to hear about some of the top songs?
I can't wait.
Oh, so first one, Michael Jackson, "Don't Stop Till You Get Enough."
Oh, that song's a bop.
Got a jam. The Knack, "My Sharona."
That song is awesome too.
Great song. The Bee Gees, "Tragedy."
I love the Bee Gees.
ELO, "Don't Bring Me Down."
I love ELO. So
Oh, so
pre-COVID
much.
time, so I think we missed ELO came here and performed at the Oakland Coliseum, and we fucking missed it.
Ugh.
We were pissed.
Oh man.
I know. I love ELO.
Me too. I'm a big fan. Robert Palmer, Bad Case of Lovin' You. Good song.
That song, I feel like that song was in every like beer commercial in the early 80s.
Yep. And last one here, Pink Floyd, Another Brick in the Wall.
You couldn't get away from that song.
No, The Wall, that double album.
It was everywhere.
Everybody's brother had a copy. I remember that.
Everybody's older brother had a copy of Pink Floyd, The Wall. This is 100% true. Good call. What else are you dorking out about, Margo?
So for my other show, we're going to be talking about All the President's Men. And so I've been going down a Watergate rabbit hole the size of my apartment. And I went back and listened to the Slate podcast, Slow Burn.
Ooh.
And it's all about Watergate, that first season. And it's really well done. It's super interesting. The second season is about Bill Clinton and Bill Clinton's impeachment. Forgot so much shit about that. Super interesting. And then the last season that's been out, so season 3, is all about David Duke, who in America, he was a guy that was he a Grand Dragon of the KKK? He was a
Grand Wizard.
Grand Wizard of the KKK, and then ran for public office and won, and then was attempting to be a president. And then for a while sort of downplayed, I'm not a racist. I was just in the KKK. It's bananas.
Oh my God.
He embraces it now, but he was trying to like get away. But anyway, it's just super duper interesting.
I love the movie All the President's Men.
Yeah.
I think it's so good.
It's a perfect movie.
It really is. It's so well done, and I love that movie. I'm glad you're doing that one. There's what was the other? Oh, you were talking about the second season of Slow Burn where they talked about Bill Clinton. There's a documentary, I think it was on A&E, about the Clinton impeachment, and it's so well done. And I don't think he is interviewed in it, obviously, but I believe Monica Lewinsky was. And like, the empathy I had for her after watching that, like we did her wrong as a country, and it made me angry.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you don't think things can change, but a lot of your attitudes can change in 20 years. And and the sexism that she put up with and the jokes and the comments about her, everything. I know, feel the same way. I really feel the same way. Yeah.
Did you finish on Netflix Night Stalker?
Oh, of course.
I finished it today on the treadmill. It's so good. If y'all haven't watched Night Stalker, it's gruesome. It's gruesome, but it's so well done.
Yeah.
It's on Netflix. It's 4 episodes, and it's all about the Night Stalker serial killer in the late 70s, early 80s, I believe. Early, or maybe just early 80s.
No, mid 80s, because I remember, I think he was caught in 85.
You're right.
And the trial wasn't until like 89.
89.
I was living in the Bay Area at the time, and like I moved there, and people were telling me about this, and he was terrifying in California.
Is absolutely terrifying to me. Like,
yeah,
because he did not give a shit. Old, young, he killed you any different way. There was no like, he didn't have like a thing. He would just do. He's terrifying to me. And in the 4th episode, after he's caught, spoilers for this murder case that you're probably totally aware of. After he's caught and they're in the trial, and they talk about like all the women that are like writing him letters and like sending him naked pictures. And like they interview this one woman, this one older woman, and she's like, "Oh, I think all those people are just a bunch of dumb bitches." And it made me laugh out loud. It's like such a serious thing, but it is gory because it has crime scene photos, and that's gruesome. So trigger warning for that. But I love how they focus on the victims, and I love how they they interview the two lead detectives on the case,
Mm-hmm.
and I love their stories and how they interact with each other, and in particular that one, the one who was younger named Gil and his
Mm-hmm.
wife, and
Yeah.
like it's so well done. It's really good, but it's also really sad and fucked up. But it's a good one.
But they used to focus more on the criminal and
Yeah,
sensationalize the criminal. And he was given the sexy edit. And if he didn't open his mouth, he kind of was attractive.
right.
But then you saw those messed up
Ew.
teeth he had. Oh my God. What about the librarian?
Yeah, he was like, oh,
Oh my God.
yeah, he was like, he said he smelled like so terrible, and then when he sees this picture in the newspaper, and he's like, my blood changed temperature,
Yeah.
like, and then just even like the idea of how like that neighborhood kind of came together to like stop him. Like
Oh,
all it's
yeah.
all so well done. I didn't know any of that. I knew who the Night Stalker was. I know like that he, killed people in LA County and San Francisco and all that, but like I didn't realize kind of how he had been caught.
Yeah.
And I always find also like police investigations to be really interesting, and how they work like cross functionally with other police departments and stuff. Like I'm kind of a dork for it, I guess. So I really like that.
Yeah.
It's really well done. And then one other thing we watched it last night on HBO Max, Class Action Park.
Isn't that great?
I tweeted this. I was like, this is a horror movie. It is absolutely horrifying to me that this is a thing that existed. It's about a water park in Vernon, New Jersey in the
Mm-hmm.
80s, and there's just like no fucking rules, and like no real safety precautions, and like all the lifeguards are like teenagers that don't give a fuck, and like all these people are like getting injured, and eventually some people actually get killed. But they have all these different talking heads of people who worked there, people who knew the owners, like comedians that used to go there.
Mm-hmm.
I was One of them in particular, I think his name is like Chris Gedhart or something like that.
Gethard.
Gethard fucking cracked me up. It could have been like 2 hours of that dude just talking about going to Action Park, and I would have watched it. It's
It was
so
a
well
thing.
done.
I remember it. I remember the commercials. We didn't go. We weren't allowed to go. My parents were like, "No." We begged. They're like, "No, we are not going there," because they heard what was going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a bunch of kids, and like all the people that worked there were like 14, 15, 16 years old,
Mm-hmm.
drinking beer when they're not there. They do that shack where they all hung out and had sex and stuff. Like, oh my God, it's disgusting. And yeah, the rides where like people's bathing suits just flew off, and people are pooing, and people like the two people drowned in the wading pool one
Yeah.
day.
And
Yeah,
the guy's
two.
like, the second one, that should have never happened. He's like, because after the first one, you closed the fucking wave pool. Like, why is it even open? Like,
Right.
just, I'm like, we, my husband and I go through this a lot when we go to we love to go to county fairs
Mm-hmm.
or state fairs, or, and mainly we ride the Ferris wheel because Calvin wants to ride the Ferris wheel. And then, like, we get corn dogs and funnel cake, and that's it. But we assume a certain amount of trust in the people that are operating these rides that maybe we shouldn't. Because
Mm-hmm.
and that this is an example of that. Like, they're like 15 years old, and they're like hungover, and it's just their job. Like, it's not like it's their passion to save lives or something. Like,
No, and then the owner just didn't put any money into
right,
safety, and then he owned the town basically.
right.
And when somebody came in like with a lawsuit, he could buy them out or he could intimidate them. It's really bad. I mean, I think like the deaths should be covered a little bit better. It's sort of like an afterthought
Yeah,
because it's almost fun, like the way they talk about it. You are
yeah,
laughing because it's so
yeah.
absurd.
I would, because the movie's like an hour and a half long. Let's say it's an hour and a half long. I don't remember exactly how long it is, but like,
Hmm.
I mean, that first hour is just like holy shit, that's hilarious. Oh my god, these fucking people. What the fuck were you thinking? Blah, blah, blah. And then there's like 20 minutes of, oh yeah, and then some people died. And you're like, holy shit.
Yeah. How did this happen?
Yeah. And the owner, he couldn't even get insured, so he like created like a fake insurance company. It's fucking bananas. It's bananas. What it is. It actually, now that I think about it, ties in kind of nicely to our China syndrome in that it's another, business that doesn't give a shit about your safety. It's all about money.
Yep.
So what I'm saying is you could watch China Syndrome and then you could watch Class Action Park. It's an unlikely
Get your
double.
70s and 80s in.
Yeah, it's an unlikely. I did love all the archive footage too with like it does have the best hair.
Yeah, oh, it's pure Jersey like 85.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
And they're talking
like the big bangs.
And they're talking about the Tarzan swing ride or whatever, and if you didn't do it right, there's like hundreds of people watching you going, "You fucking pussy!" Like, it's pretty funny until it's not. But I would definitely recommend it. It's on HBO Max, so if you haven't seen it and you get HBO Max, I think it's worth it because it's very entertaining.
Absolutely, I totally recommend it.
Where can people find you on the internet, Margo?
You could find me on social media at Brooklyn Fit Chick for Twitter and Instagram, and my blog is brooklynfitchick.com.
And you can find me at thesoniashow.com and The Sonia Show on Twitter and Instagram. And you can find Dorking Out at dorkinoutshow.com and Dorking Out Show on, well, it's on Facebook and Instagram, but I don't really post that much there. But you could go to our What a Creep private group. We also host What a Creep, where we talk about a creep, and then we end every episode with someone who's not a creep, and there we have a private Facebook group. You can ask to join, and if you don't look like an asshole who would storm the Capitol, we'll let you in. And there's a lot of people from Dorking Out who have joined the group, and they love to post in there too, and it's super fun. And if you have requests, you could tweet to us, or you could email us at dorkingoutshow@gmail.com. And we're going to get new stickers. I swear to God, you guys, I'm going to make the new stickers. And if you want to give us a review on Apple Podcasts, that would be amazing, because some of our reviews are just like, lady didn't like movie that I like, 1 star. Or Sonia swears a lot, 1 star.
That's my favorite.
That is my favorite too, actually. That's a good review that I print out and hang up on my wall because I like that shit.
You gotta frame that, yeah.
That shit just makes me stronger, you guys. Yum, 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 yum. I just love it. But this was super fun. I'm glad we talked about China Syndrome. Good pick, Margo. I love it when you pick a movie I've never seen.
It's fun. It's I think it's really fun. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I hope you guys check it out. If you haven't heard of it before, definitely check it out. It's a great thriller.
And it's on Criterion right now, or you could stream it anywhere, I'm sure.
And Stephen Bishop he's on Spotify if you want to hear somewhere in between. And then listen to the good shit. Right.
What a fool believes. Oh, wait, that's the Doobie Brothers.